Whoa, my God. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. I was so excited. I aspirated a little bit of that Fresca on that last little gulp. So, you know, but I'll have to remember to go find that battery later. Jeff Dempsey, thank you for asking. Yes, I did center up my camera. I did recenter my camera. So that's good. It's good. In fact, if you take a look, long-time detail-oriented viewers may notice the camera's actually, the angle's a little different. I actually took the opportunity to sort of reshuffle my camera, so now my chair is at the correct height. This is the correct height for my monitor, but in the past, the camera was angled downward, such that I had to be down here, which meant my kind of like, oh, I'm at the big kids table, mommy. My arms were kind of up near my chest, and now, maximum height, maximum ergonomics. I think I'll do the whole stream like this. Oh, yeah. No. There we go. Okay, perfect. Now everything's perfect. Perfect. There's nothing more I could ask for from the world. It's good. All I can do now is a live stream with you. Yeah. I'm going to answer your questions. You're going to ask questions. Here, see here, Willy Dick, first time commenter, Willy Dick. Willy, I'm sorry, Willy, I'm chuckling. If that's actually your name, I shouldn't chuckle at it. Probably. It'd be rude. There's a sitcom. Is it a sitcom? Is frickin' it's Letterkenny. Is Letterkenny a sitcom? I think it's probably a sitcom, right? And one of the jokes they make is one of the characters' last name is D-Y-C-K, Dick. And then all of the characters' lines are puns. Like his wife's name is Anita Dick. I know, it's not highbrow comedy. So I chuckled when I saw your name, because it reminded me of that show, not because I was laughing at your name. Blunty's going to queue up the questions. Blunty, you got your Q&A finger ready? Of course he does.
Yep. Because
there are already questions queued. And I'm going to answer the questions, and we'll get through about 2 hours of this nonsense and have a good time. In fact, hey, Captain Bry. Wait, before we get started, Captain Bry is here. Captain Bry is an Express LRS dev. Captain Bry, oh no. Where is it? Let's see here. Where's the question? Okay. I don't know the answer to this question, and I was going to let it slide. But Captain Bry is here, and he'll know the answer. Captain Bry, Loch Ness FPV asks, I have the Starfish D1 VRX, an open source diversity VRX based on the RX 5808. No Express LRS backpack in the software. Can I flash the generic RX 5808 module from the LRS configurator, or will it brick the VRX? I don't even understand how some of those things, like, can I flash an RX 5808 module from the ELRS configurator? I thought ELRS configurator only flashed ESP-based hardware. Is an RX 5808 secretly ESP-based hardware? I don't know. But since you're here, I'll throw the question at you, and you can answer in the chat if you want or not, but you're more likely to know the answer than I will. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's answer questions. Now I want to know the answer. Just to be distracted looking for it. By the way, thank you to everybody who is submitting super chats. I see people bringing super chats. If you hit the $sign down here at the bottom and leave a super chat, that is basically the only way to guarantee that I read your message on stream. Otherwise, me and Blunty are just going to pick messages that we think will be entertaining or interesting or that we just like. What we do is we queue the super chats up, and after spending 10 or 15 minutes just making the let's be honest, the poor people, making them feel good about themselves by answering their questions, then we get on to the super chats and we pay the rent. So if you leave in super chats, hang out for the next 15 minutes or so, and then we'll just start getting to those questions, and we'll just knock them all out. Okay? sometimes I think that people don't understand that I'm like kind of doing a little bit when I say things like that. And I get emails like, I used to think you were super cool, but then you made fun of poor people, and now I don't like you anymore. And I'm like, when you watch wrestling, do you think they're really mad at each other? It's entertainment. Come on, roll with it. Roll with it. Roll with it. Okay, but let's take some questions from the poor people. And this question is from Professor Biohazard, who asks, why do so many FPV systems come with such low FOV lenses on the camera? And I don't know what you're talking about. I honestly don't know what you're talking about, because FPV systems have wide angle. What are you talking about? Low FOV. They all have wide angle FOV. I would need to know what specific FPV system you're talking about that you think has low FOV. I honestly don't know. Oh, good. Captain Bry also doesn't understand the question from Loch Ness. He is equally confused, and that makes me feel smarter. Because here's the thing. If someone asks a question and two people both know the answer, it's reasonable to conclude that they're equally smart. But if someone asks a question and two people both agree the question is confusing, is it also reasonable to conclude that they are equally smart? Right? If we're both confused, we must both be smart enough to know the question doesn't make sense. Even though we don't... Yeah, I feel like that's valid. So, Professor Biohazard, most FPV cameras come with a lens in the range of about 110 degrees. Is that diagonal? No, I don't think it's even diagonal. I think that's horizontal field of view, which is pretty wide. So I don't know. It seems pretty good to me. I've flown with cameras that have a wider field of view, and I didn't think that it was like you get a lot of fisheye and stuff. It's not that good. So, Loch Ness FPV, no need to apologize for the confusing question. We want to answer your question. Like, to you, the question makes sense, and if there's a way in which the question shouldn't make sense, then that's an opportunity for like us to kind of straighten you out and help you get to the solution that you're looking for, which is ultimately our goal. But I don't know enough about this situation to actually help. And Captain Bry also apparently, yeah. Loch Ness says the VRX is based on the ESP32 plus two RX5808s. Okay, so it seems like that there are details about this open source project that sort of neither me nor Captain Bry know. So I don't know if we can answer your question, dude. But I don't know. If anybody can, it's Captain Bry. Okay, moving on. Jean-Paul de Morales. Ooh, you threw me off there, John Paul. It's John Paul de Morales. De Morales. But it's not Jean-Paul, because it's John. Josh, somewhat new to FPV, and I'm currently flying a DJI FPV, ready to move on to a 5-inch freestyle. I originally wanted to go with a Nazgul 5, but I was pushed to the AOS 5 V5. Is it worth it? I wonder why you were pushed to the AOS 5. Like, what was the thing that people told you was better about the AOS 5? Here's the thing. Let's pull these up, just so we have some visual aids. Here's our iFlight Nazgul 5. Okay. And here is an AOS 5 bind and fly. I'm not even sure they sell the AOS 5 bind and fly anymore, to be honest with you. 03 air unit version, yeah. Oh, it's still there. It still exists. I wasn't sure if they were even still making it, to be honest with you. So both of these are 5-inch bind and fly drones from iFlight. iFlight makes both of them. The AOS 5 obviously has the Chris Rosser AOS frame. And what the AOS frame is going to bring to the table is that it is just, perfectly designed for optimal resonance characteristics, gyro performance, PID tuning, and flight performance. Theoretically, anyway, the AOS 5 is going to fly better on a good PID tune, and Chris Rosser developed a PID tune for this build, so you're basically getting a hand-tuned quadcopter that flies as good as it like freaking can. Okay? But I don't know, because frankly, the Nazgul also flies pretty damn good. Like, iFlight's factory PID tune for the Nazgul, I probably would say it's not as good as Chris Rosser's custom hand-developed PID tune for his frame, because Chris Rosser probably is better at PID tuning than whoever developed the PID tune for the Nazgul, but, like, that's just sort of giving Chris Rosser credit for being, like, really smart guy. The Nazgul flies really good, though, and especially as a beginner, I don't think a beginner is like, you hand a quadcopter, you hand me a race car, and you go, hey, take it out on the track, have a few laps there, sir. And I go out and I like go as fast as I feel safe going, which isn't very fast. And then you come back and they go, so what did you think of the suspension tuning? Did you think the camber was right on the wheels? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I was doing 45 miles an hour the whole way around the track, just trying not to crash it. Right? My point is that there are subtle nuances in the PID tuning of a quadcopter that an expert pilot's going to notice, but especially someone buying their first drone coming off a DJI FPV, not going to notice. So $539 for the Nazgul, $645, $100 more for the AOS. Is that the O3? Yeah. $100 more for the AOS. And, hang on. So, Nazgul Eco. Come with an O3? Can I get it with an O3? That's the analog version. That doesn't count. How do I get the O3? There we go. The Dead Cat version with the O3. 400! Holy. Let's put a receiver in it. We need a receiver. 435. Like, you get this one, which is, like, great. For $435. You get the Chris Rosser one, which is great, for $645. It's like $200 more. I don't see it. You got to really want that Chris Rosser one. And the other thing is, the Chris Rosser one flies great, not quite as durable. Not quite as durable. So for a beginner, it just feels like something like the Nazgul Eco. By the way, that's the drone I pulled up, the Nazgul DC5 Eco. I've got a full review of it on my channel. You can go search my YouTube channel for Nazgul Eco and you can find it. That'd be my pick for a beginner looking to get into 5 inches. Okay. Sorry, Chris. That's just my honest take. Too often, beginners focus a lot on performance, and what beginners need to focus on is, number one, the drone isn't too expensive, because you're going to crash it, you're going to break it, you might lose it, and you need to be able to buy another one so you can keep yourself in the game. Number one, it needs to be not too expensive. It needs to not be a piece of crap, but it doesn't need to be, as long as it's like not a piece of crap, that's enough. Because if you buy the best, you're not going to notice the difference anyway. Okay. Does Blunty have a YouTube? And if so, what is it, please? Blunty, I'll leave it to you. I know you do have a YouTube, but I don't know how active you are, and I'm not sure if you really care about, like, putting it out there. So,
yeah,
opinion?
I don't care.
Yeah. So he has a YouTube. He made content for a while, a little bit here, a little bit there.
Yeah, I'll just say you queued that, but yeah, just because I know you wanted to ask. But yeah, I don't. Yeah. I would not have queued it because I don't care about my YouTube channel. I just hate making videos. It turns out making videos sucks. You have an editor. It's a lot easier with an editor. It's a lot of time investment to make a good video, to make quality things, to go through and figure everything out. It's real annoying. So I don't enjoy doing it. That's why we do the live stream.
You did it for a while. I don't want to like put you on the spot, you know, do a little focus on Blunty. You made videos for a while. I actually was really impressed with some of your early tutorial videos. Not because of the production quality. No, don't get me wrong. But because it really, because it really showed that you had a commitment to helping people and you took the time, and you still do. You just don't do it through videos.
Yeah, that's why we're working together, right? You noticed me because of that, mainly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just annoying to make videos, you know.
Okay.
That's all.
All right. So, Blunty doesn't really have a YouTube. Joseph Diaz, will my lipo explode if I don't use it for a month? Yeah, absolutely. You guys, if you don't use your lipos for a month, boom! Big fire! Explosion! You didn't know that, did you? How many? No, it won't explode if you don't use it for a month. No, it won't explode if you don't use it for a month. So what you should do is you should put it at storage voltage. That will help. Because leaving it fully charged for a month will make it perform worse. It'll have more voltage sagging, increased internal resistance. And if you zoom out enough, it does slightly increase the chance that it might light on fire. Like if the internal resistance goes up. If you left the battery fully charged for like 6 months and you come back and it's all puffy, probably would like just retire it, right? But it's not going to just spontaneously make it explode. No. Make sure it's at storage voltage when you don't use it for a long time, and it'll be just as good as the day you left it when you come back. Let's see here. Willy Dick asks, first time commenter, I use Expo on my... It is. Your name is a joke because it's Willy, which is also a euphemism for a PP, and Dick, which is also a euphemism for a PP. I'm not a fan of it. I'm going to answer your question, but I want you to know I'm a little annoyed. Just kind of juvenile. I don't mind juvenile. I just don't like being made to say Willy Dick repeatedly. Willy Dick. Maybe I do. First time commenter, I use Expo on my planes. Is it recommended on drones? Yes, but no. In planes, you set up the Expo in the controller. On drones, you set up the Expo or the curve in the flight controller. And the reason for that is that the flight controller can do much more sophisticated calculations and get the Expo curve exactly right, whereas a custom curve or something like that in the controller doesn't have as much nuance. Or in the hand controller, it doesn't have as much nuance. Let's see here. Let's see if there are questions from the Discord. The people in the Discord server, by the way, over here on the right side of my screen, this is the Discord server. Yeah. Notice asks, can we agree it's Blunty is the unsung hero of the stream? He's the sung hero of the stream. What are you talking about? And of the Discord server too. I don't know what I would do without him. These guys are my patrons. They get in my Discord server, and they get to, hang out with me sometimes. And I get to get extra attention during the live streams. So let's take a question from the Discord here. McShaky asks, I ordered a JHEMCU updated GH411 HD AIO F4, and that's what in the box it said, but inside was a JHEMCU F722. Should I consider this a free upgrade? No, great. F7 better than F4, right? Is there some reason you don't like the F722? I'd consider it a free upgrade as long as you're happy with it. They probably don't care if you send it back. If you're like, hey, you sent me the wrong thing, they'll probably just send you another one. So try it. Be like, hey, you sent me the wrong thing. And they'll say, keep it. You go, well, no, I really wanted that F4. And then if they say, well, send it back, then just ghost them. But there's a good chance that they'll go, okay, sorry, and they'll just reship because they don't want to deal with the return. So, is that unethical? Is that unethical? Is it? Your call. O'Houlihan asks, how do I reflash BetaFlight fresh and reapply the CLI from the same version as my flight controller, Mob 6 2024 Eco? I'm going to guess you screwed up your configuration. Is that what happened? He screwed it up? And so, yeah he did.
Sorry, I have the history on this because I sent him here.
Okay.
Yeah, basically we were working and he said the battery ran out, and then after he put a new battery in, like he killed the battery.
I know this one.
And then when he put a new battery in, the video won't connect, but everything else works. So I think somehow the config still got messed up and he needs to reflash. That's my guess, right? He checked the wires and he didn't do a crash. So.
Is there a chance that you don't know this bug and I do? I assume that you know like everything I know and more. You know this bug?
Yes, okay. That's why I recommended reflash. But the problem is, I remember that. Here's the question I had about the bug. Doesn't the bug just put it back to like it came from the factory or back to the base target? Because he still can control the drone.
So for those who don't know, the bug we're talking about is there used to be a bug on some, it was Happy Model AIOs. I don't know if it was just them, but it was specifically Happy Model AIOs that had this problem, where if the battery voltage got too low, like if you run your battery all the way down to 0, somewhere around like 2.5 or 2 volts, it would wipe the EEPROM on the flight controller and basically wipe your config. And it would, I think, wipe you back to BetaFlight defaults. was my recollection.
That was mine too, but if that's the case, I don't know how you can still control and stuff. So that was where I was kind of at with that. Maybe
so
it just happens to be that the default.
Config.
Yes, but the wires are intact. All he did was lose battery, and the settings still seem to be the same in the configurator. So all I can do is like, well, one of the things you could try, reflash BetaFlight, reapply that CLI so you know it's just like it came.
He doesn't need to reflash though, in my humble opinion. So can he not just go to the flight controller and type defaults, and it'll default it?
I guess it depends on how Happy Model flashes them, right? Because it's just the base target that has all the information. That's right, but it wouldn't have like the motor protocol set or anything, right? So he would
but then he's going to need to download the CLI from Happy Model.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So
what
just
I would do
okay.
I would not reflash it because that's kind of a pain in the ass. You can reflash it, but it introduces some problems potentially. If you go to the CLI and you type the word defaults, DEFAULTS, it'll wipe it back to the factory defaults, not the Happy Model factory defaults, the BetaFlight defaults. So it'll give you a clean slate. The other thing you can do is in the setup tab, you can go and you can hit reset settings, and that'll do the same thing. Reset the flight controller to an unconfigured state. So now you've wiped the damn thing out. Well, what are you going to do next? The next thing you're going to do is, what is this? Happy Model Mob 6. What is it? It's
Eco.
What is it?
2024 Eco.
Okay, so Happy Model Mobula 6 Eco CLI Dump 2024. And sadly, the frickin'... Here we go. Maybe we found it. The frickin' Happy Model frickin' support site is garbage. It's all in blog format. So they basically just do blog posts chronologically. How the F are you supposed to find a specific thing?
Do the second one that you pulled up.
So fortunately, my Google search result found the post that matters, and here is the Happy Model Mobula 26, blah, 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 documents, and here, that's the manual, I just want to gouge my eyes out when shit like this happens. It's like, Happy Model, here's how it should be, support, okay? Support, wait, CLI dump, great. CLI dump or diff, great. Now, I need a list here or a search box of all of the quads you make, and I need to be able to find mine and get the CLI dump. How is this not just crystal clear that this should, no, Mobula 8, no, that's not what I have. How? And if I'm missing something, feel free to tell me. This is a frickin' 37 pages of chronological of everything they've ever uploaded. That's not useful at all. It's not useful at all. Okay, well, let me search in these results. No. Okay, here we go. Happy Model. Oh, I don't need that. This is Happy Model site. Mobula 6 Eco CLI dump. Go. I have every confidence that this goddamn file is here. I don't know how I'm supposed to find it, though. Oh, here we go. Maybe we'll use tags. Yeah, that's a good way to do it. This is so clunky. Oh, look, we got Mobula 6 and Mobula 6. Oh, two of the exact same tag. And it's so frustrating. 2024, okay, great. Because it shouldn't be like this. I need this information. You have this information. Why are you making it so hard for me to get this information? For frick's sake. Nope. So, I don't want to take any more of the live stream's time searching for this stupid effing file that is... here it is! Here it is! Somewhere, once upon a time, it was on page 4. Not anymore. Happy model, fix your website. Fix your website. This is unacceptable. Also, if I could rant for one more effing second. Every manufacturer of FPV products in the world, if I search for your product and I go to your website and I find the product page for your product, the CLI dump, the manual, the wiring diagram should all be on that page. Of course they should. No, you can't have it. Where's the manual? Not here. Where is it? I don't know. Somewhere. On Banggood, I'm going to do a web search. The only place I'm going to find it is on, MumbaiDroneRacing.in. I'm not making that up. That happened to me. Okay, enough ranting. Fix every single manufacturer of FPV gear. Fix this. Fix this. Your product page where you sell the product to the customer, that's the repository of information, the CLI dump, the wiring diagram, the manual, whatever, it should be there. So, what you need to do is you need to find the stupid CLI dump, and after you default your flight controller, you load that CLI dump and you should be back to working. Look at this bullshit. That. It just pisses me off. Happy Model, I'm picking on you because you happen to be the subject of the question, and I've been pissed at your website before for not having this. You are far from alone. So many manufacturers do this, and it drives me crazy every frickin' time. Okay.
For the chat that's like chiming in who didn't watch the whole rant, we're not looking for the manual. We're looking for the dump, and the dump is not in the manual.
Mm-hmm. And it's somewhere on the website, but it can't find it. I mean, we could find it if we just poked around forever. And this is why I fly KISS, says Almac FPV. Oh yeah, because KISS, it's never an issue finding documentation for KISS stuff. It's true, there's only one flight controller. It makes it a little easier to keep documentation together. Okay, let's move on. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that rant. People do like a good rant. Oh my God, it's 8:30. Let's do some super chats. Time for the super chats. What we're going to do is I'm going to start reading super chats. I'm going to keep reading the super chats until we run out of super chats. At this point, if you want to get your question answered promptly, leave a super chat. That's the way to do it. By the way, if I don't get to your question, and I will not get to all the questions people ask, because people ask a ton of questions. Thank you so much for your participation. Thank you so much for your interest. If I don't get to your question on the live stream, email me, jb@joshuabardwell.com. I answer everybody's questions via email. You don't have to be a patron. You don't have to super chat. Obviously, I appreciate it if you do, but that's not how I run things. It's never been how I run things. When I first got into FPV, people helped me for free, and they didn't ask me for anything, and I wouldn't be here if they hadn't done that. And so now here I am, and I try to pay it backward, if you will. So email me. Please don't be upset. We just can't get to all the questions, but you can still get your question answered. Corkscrew FPV says, I'm thinking of adding the Siren F-35 to the fleet. Motor recommendations, KV, can support 9mm or 12mm. I think what I would say is, oh man. So I'm gonna regret this. I just took down the sub 250 gram page on my website because some of the stuff on it is out of date, and I thought, that page probably doesn't see as much traffic as some of the other pages. Let's take it down since it's out of date. Jesus, look at this guy with his frickin' Fat Shark goggles. Speaking of being out of date. And now I wished it was there because, hang on, I still have it. I just need to log into my back end of my website, which I'm definitely not going to do on stream. So give me 1 second. I can find the page. on my back end. I can find the motors you're looking for. That's what I'm saying. Can I search here? Yeah. Sub 250 drones and parts. Let's see. Can I preview this page? Yeah, I can. Great. So this page is currently offline on my website until I can get it updated, but yeah, like these bind and flies are kind of, yeah, I got to update this. The motors you're looking for, though, Ciati thinks the Xnova 1804 is freaking amazing. One thing about it is it does take 5mm props. It doesn't take T-mount props. The T-Motor Pacer P1804, also good. These are for a little bit either higher performance or heavier builds. The T-Motor P1604 in T-mount. Or if you're doing more of like a sub 250 build, right, then these motors are good. But these, especially these 1404s on a 3.5-inch prop, you're definitely going to want to keep it as light as possible, like sub 250 for sure. And if you're going to be in the 300-ish, you're not going to worry much about weight, maybe a little closer to 325 or even 350 gram range, then you're going to want to go with one of these bigger motors. So that would be my recommendation. B. Sainer, thank you for a $5 super chat. Which would you prefer for my first action camera for my Nazgul, GoPro 12 or DJI Action 4? I fly mainly freestyle. I want the best overall. B. Sainer, I made a good faith effort to switch to the DJI Action camera, DJI Action 4. Let me make sure it's the same one that I'm thinking of. Yeah, the Osmo Action 4. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No. No question, the GoPro. No question. The Osmo Action 4 is this one, not the little whatever, the little square camera. The GoPro just kicks this thing's ass, in my opinion. No question. Yeah, it's the DJI's action cameras, in my opinion, have never really measured up. Like, if you search hard enough, you'll find some way in which the Action 4 beats the GoPro, but overall, just the GoPro is the one to get, hands down. Okay, easy. I would say, well, yeah. How are the goats? Asks Kim Fuse. Kim Fuse, good to see you again. Thank you for a $20 super chat. The goats are fantastic. A little goat update. I wish I had pictures to give you guys. The goats were moved over to the wooded area from the field. We originally got, so a little known fact about goats. Goats eat poison ivy, and goats are not allergic to poison ivy. They love it. They love the taste of it. A lot of goats will actually eat it preferentially over other things. They think it's delicious. So we got the goats because we had this idea that they would eat the poison ivy undergrowth out of the woods. And the problem was that the fence around the wooded area was not sufficient to hold them. So we put them in the field for a while and eventually built a more robust fence and moved them over to the wooded area. And for about 2 months, maybe 2 months, they were just in hog heaven over there, goat heaven. And like, it's crazy how thoroughly they cleared the underbrush in these woods. Like, you can see through the woods in a way that you couldn't when they first went in there because it was all this green stuff. Everything up to like a height of, 5.5 or 6 feet, just stripped clean. It was amazing. And then they started banging at us all the time because they were hungry. And so now they've got a hay feeder in there, and because now there's just not enough stuff in there. It can't keep up with them. But they definitely did their job. They cleared out all the poison ivy. The woods are much more passable, and they like the extra space. So they're doing good. No koala. Yeah, about the milking the goats. Oh, here we go. Do you milk your goats? These are not milk goats. So there are obviously all female goats, when they become pregnant, they lactate and they nurse their young. But not all goats, and presumably not all breeds of cow, produce huge amounts of milk that make it worth milking them. There are breeds of goats that have specifically been bred for producing large amounts of milk and being milked. These are not them. These are also not meat goats, although, if you're determined enough, anything's food, right? But they're not bred to grow big and meaty and produce energy for people to eat. These are dwarf goats. Are they pygmy goats? I think they're dwarf goats. So they're just little pet goats, just hang around, be cute, and eat the undergrowth and eat the poison ivy out of the woods. So, how many goats? 3 goats. They eat basically all the plants. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything that they won't eat, like a thistle. Anything with thorns on it, they don't do so good with. But and they do not climb trees, as far as I know. They will go up on their front legs to eat the lower branches, but they don't actually climb the goats. Climb the trees. So okay. Thank you for the question, Confused, and thank you for the donation. Michoni Bamboni, thank you for 20 Australian dollars. What's your opinion on 35 versus 50 volt capacitors on 6S? 35 is fine. Phantom FPV uses 50. That's because he goes hard. Phantom FPV is the kind of guy who... Okay. Once upon a time, Phantom FPV didn't use screws to hold his camera into his camera mount. He glued his camera in place with E6000 adhesive. That's the kind of guy Phantom FPV is. Okay, now he screws it, and I think he still uses E6000, but he also screws it. I don't know. My point is that Phantom FPV will never be wrong in the way that he builds, but sometimes he'll be a little bit extra. You know what I mean? And so, if you decide you want to use 50 volts, more power to you. But some people are going to struggle to fit a big honking 50 volt, 1000 microfarad capacitor in there, in their build. And they're like, can I use 35? And my opinion is it's fine to use 35. 50 will give you a little more protection and a little more filtering, but 35 is okay. The other thing I would keep in mind is, if you have the room for, say, a 50 volt 1000 microfarad, would you be better with a 35 volt 2000 microfarad, which maybe would be about the same size? I don't know how the math actually works out. But I think that's an interesting question, and I don't know the answer. I would love for someone with some engineering expertise to actually speak up on that. Would you be better off with more microfarads or a higher voltage rating? Because I don't 100% know the effect of exceeding the voltage rating. And it is true that on 6S, you probably have voltage spikes over the voltage rating of the capacitor. Workshop Wanderer, thank you for a $20 super chat. Workshop Wanderer says, thanks for bringing me into the hobby. And another $10, you left $30 in super chats, $40 in super chats and left. So thank you so much for the donations. Incredibly generous and much appreciated. Gross J83 asks, I want to build a practice tower like the one that was in your yard. Curious how big it is. Thank you for a $10 super chat. Sadly, it fell down in a windstorm. It no longer is in my yard. RIP. The dimensions were, I think it was 8 foot. Stands to reason it would have been 8 foot, right? I think it was 8 foot square for the big openings. Just because, right? Why not? 8 foot's a good round number. For perspective, multi-GP race gates are 5 foot openings. And that sounds pretty big, but if you're trying to do freestyle and go backwards and sideways through them, they're not as big as you think. So I was going for something a little bigger than that. Sky Zombie asks, is LQ what I want on my OSD for both Crossfire and ELRS? Yes. Thank you for a $5 super chat, Sky Zombie. LQ is what you want. It's the number one. If you only were going to have one metric for whether I'm about to fail safe, it would be LQ. In reality, you probably should be watching both LQ and RSSI DBM and maybe SNR while you're at it. But that can get a little overwhelming. So if you had to pick one, it would be LQ. At what value should I get concerned? In my opinion, a good way to think about it is that any LQ over 90% is essentially perfect. Any LQ between 80 and 90 is like yellow flag. And any LQ below 80 is, if not exactly a red flag, like concerning, okay? If I'm regularly riding with my LQ below about 70, I'm concerned that, because like the thing about LQ is it's fine right up until it's not, okay? So it can go from 70 to 40 to failsafe real fast. Whereas if you're above 80, 85, or certainly above 90, you're probably in pretty safe territory, okay? I use that as a general round number for both Crossfire and ELRS. The thing is, I've seen ELRS continue to fly at LQ in the 50s. Like, as a pilot, I could feel the micro stutters. It wasn't great. And the whole time I knew that at any moment I would just drop out of the air, okay? So, like, you don't want to be flying like that. Like, if you're trying to, like, break a world record and you're doing a long-range run, and there's $1 million on the line, okay? And you're flying out over the ocean, so you don't care if you crash because you're just going to go down in the ocean and, I don't know, freaking choke a whale. I guess that's probably not good. Anyway, it's a hypothetical. Don't overthink it. Like, at that point, you're just going to fly till you fail safe. And it's going to go 60, 50, and you're going to feel the micro stutters. And you're just going to keep flying. And maybe it's going to go 40, and you're going to feel the micro stutters and keep flying. Right? And eventually it'll fail safe, and that'll be the end of your run. But if you're just a pilot having a good time, and you don't want to, like, crash and lose your quad, you're not going to push it that low. As soon as it gets it down below 80 into the 70s, you're going to be like, oh, maybe I should think about coming home. Rick King, thank you for a $2 super chat. Did Rick have a question? Rick King says, where can I buy the Eishi Novice 4 combo? Thank you for another $2. I mean, Eishi.com? I don't know. For $4, I'll try and look it up for you. Do they still make the Novice? Yeah, they do. 520. Is it still for sale? Nope. 0 left stocks. I don't think they make it anymore, dude. I don't think they make it anymore. It was a really good... if you were okay with the lack of durability on this little 4-inch quadcopter, this was a hell of a good deal. Radiomaster TX12, Eishi box goggles, not the best in the world, but, you know, worth the money, and a pretty decent little quadcopter. I think it used to be cheaper than this, though. It was a better deal when it was cheaper. Is it still at Banggood? No. They don't make it anymore. I don't think you can get it. So, the answer is nowhere. Scotty Camera says, thanks for being the best. That's all. Thank you for $5. You're the best. You're magnificent. What is it that Keanu said? You're radiant. Mars, thank you for a $2 super chat. Woot89, thank you for a $5 super chat. What are your thoughts on the new Beta FPV Pavo 2.0 Pro, and are you going to review it? The Pavo 2.0 Pro is not, like, interesting enough that I would be like, hell yes, I'm going to review it. I might not. It's hard to say. What is it? Oh, it's trying to be like a Flywoo. It's just like the Flywoo Synolog, not Synolog. Frickin' 75 millimeter. Interesting. Nice picture. That's a good picture. 1104 motors. Does it come with a naked? I want it to come with a naked 03. So it's basically a Pavo 2.0, 2-inch props, DJI 03. You know how you get an 8 to 11% thrust boost. That's interesting. Interesting claim, if true. I mean, the Pavo 2.0 wasn't bad. I don't think it was the best in that category, but it wasn't bad. Linear power like a cheetah. That's you made that up. You made that up. You just made that up. That's just such bullshit. Like, some of these things are facts, like a thrust-to-weight ratio greater than 5.1, but stable linear power like a cheetah reflexes propulsion system. Give me a break, guys. Come on. It's cute. It's cute. Looks like there's some solid improvements over the V1. I'd love for it to come with a naked 03. The difference between the fly lens, that's what it was. The fly lens 85 with the naked 03 and the fly lens with the full 03 was pronounced. And I would definitely liked the naked one better. What do you think of the Open IPC project? Asks Imperious FPV. Thank you for a $2 super chat. I'll tell you, I am. So for those who don't know, Open IPC is an open source project working on an FPV video system. It originally was custom firmware for security cameras, and then I don't know the exact chronology, but my sort of half-assed impression is that somebody went, hey, we could hook this up to a video transmitter. Wouldn't that be neat? And, started building this FPV system around the OpenIPC project. And today it is got the potential, it has a lot of potential to provide a truly open source way of building an FPV system. But there's a lot of hype around it, and I don't think it's earned the amount of hype that it's getting. And I get it. I don't blame the developers for that hype, although the developers do. Okay, maybe I blame them a little, because they definitely hyped their project, but who can blame them? They put a lot of work into it, and they're very excited about it. But the hype that I think is a little unwarranted is people hear, someone's making an open source FPV system, and they go, yeah, DJI's dead, everybody! There's going to be finally an FPV system for the people! It's inexpensive and open source, and oh, we did it, guys! And I'm like, hold on. First of all, like, the open source, this is open source software, but like building an actual video transmitter that you could just put in a drone, that's not open. Like, RunCam and Emacs both recently, just in the last like week or two, announced that they were coming out with open IPC based hardware. That's incredibly exciting. But that hardware, they're not open sourcing that hardware design. Right? And if you cobble together with like a Raspberry Pi and a freaking Wi-Fi module or something, if you cobble together like a truly off-the-shelf open source video transmitter camera, etc., it's going to be shit. It's going to be crap, because it's all just going to perform badly and fall apart and be cobbled together. So you're going to end up buying video transmitters and video receivers and so forth from vendors, and that's fine, because like today you don't build your own ExpressLS receiver. The software is open source, the hardware is proprietary from manufacturers, and that works really well. And I think it has the potential to work really well in this system. But the other reason that I think the hype is a little bit unwarranted is that it's very unproven. Not unproven in the sense that like people are out there flying it, 100% they are. But until there is a product that someone can swipe a credit card at Race Day Quads and deliver this product, and then they can put it in their quad and they can fly it and they can stick it on their face and they can have an image. Until that exists, the performance of the system is irrelevant to the vast majority of people who are not going to jump through the hoops necessary to make it work. Okay? And also, I've been around long enough that I've seen a lot of projects where there was all this hype and the devs were like, it's amazing, look how great it is. And then when it hits the street, it doesn't live up to expectations. And so my natural position is a position of cynicism or skepticism. Let's say skepticism, maybe a little bit of cynicism, but skepticism until proven otherwise. And I think that's very fair. It doesn't mean that I don't believe in the project, don't support it, don't wish it well, but it does mean that until there's a product I can buy and then I can put it in a drone and I can see how it performs, I withhold judgment. And to see other people get ultra hyped while I'm withholding judgment is a little annoying, because I think the hype is misleading. And it annoys me. Anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing the RunCam and the Emacs. It's Emacs, I think. Is it Eishi? Fuck. I think it's Emacs. VRX, VTX, etc., and testing them out. And if they're good, then it'll be amazing. Yeah. No questions. Thanks for the content. Good rant. Thank you for a $10 super chat. ST Vol Reset Robot Lady. Thank you for a $2 super chat. I have no idea what that means. Stovall, not ST Vol. I'm getting less than 20 meters of range line of sight at 1 watt with my VR03 goggles and upgraded antenna before my signal craps out. Do I need to buy better goggles? No. Thank you for $5 Canadian. Alex, something's effed up in your system. Something's effed up. You definitely should get more range than that. My best guess is that your VTX is in pit mode. You think it's at 1 watt, but it's not. It's actually in pit mode. What I always tell people to do in situations like this is look at the LEDs on the VTX. The LEDs on the VTX will show you what output power the VTX thinks it's at. Find the manual for the VTX, look in the manual, and see how you can tell if the VTX is in pit mode, P-I-T mode, pit mode. And then if it's in pit mode, then figure out how to take it out of pit mode, usually by like holding down the power button or something. Bear in mind that if BetaFlight says the VTX is not in pit mode, sometimes the VTX will still be like, yeah, screw you, I'm in pit mode. So you can't always assume that what you see in your OSD is right. Also, you may just not be talking to the VTX at all. If you set the VTX up wrong, if you've set the flight controller up wrong, if you've done the wiring wrong, then everything you do in BetaFlight is not getting to the VTX. And BetaFlight's like, yeah, you're at 1 watt. But BetaFlight has no idea that the VTX isn't getting the message. So, thank you, Grotto Roto, for $10. Appreciate the donation, man. Thank you for 250 rupees from Mr. B. I'm currently using walk-snail camera and I want to change it to a single antenna. Question, would it be possible to use the DJI-03 antenna because it has dual UFL? I mean, sure, but isn't that going to be linear? The DJI antenna is linear, and the walk-snail system, the goggles that you have, probably have circular antennas, which is going to hurt your performance a little. But, yeah, it would work. I don't see why not. Can you suggest an Eishi? Yeah, Blunty.
I would just say also, don't you lose some dB because you're using a dual band, the O3's dual band?
Oh, that's a good point. The O3 is a dual band antenna, not a 5 gigahertz antenna. So you'll get some performance loss there as well. Yes, I don't think it's a good idea. If you really want a single antenna, doesn't Walksnail make a single antenna VTX? They do, although the performance is a little worse. So, thank you, Blunty. That's a good point. Rick King asks, can you suggest an Eishi 4 combo equivalent? Thank you for $2, Rick King. I really can't, man. That was a really unique kit where you had a pretty decent hand controller, the Eishi, the Radiomaster T12. You had a half-decent set of goggles, and you had a pretty half-decent drone in that little 4-inch size for about $500. I mean, like, you could go and buy a bind and fly from Rotor Riot, but that's not exactly... It was a really special little kit, and I don't know of another kit that really exactly fills that slot, to be honest with you. Yeah. Close Call asks, thank you for $5. In your professional opinion, which freestyle trick has the most Riz? Ooh, the most Riz. That's not necessarily the hardest trick, is it? The trick with the most Riz is a baller, is a gap blast, okay? Is shooting at ridiculous speed through a tiny gap at great peril to your quadcopter. Because at the end of the day, Riz is about giving people a wow moment, charisma, right? It's not about performance. It's not about technical capability or knowledge or skill. It's about just blowing people's mind. And going mock chicken through a tiny gap that people thought you just would crash, that really impresses people. So that's my answer there. Dustin Pratt, thank you for a $10 super chat. I just got the Goggles X and a Walksnail HD Nano V1. I updated everything to latest firmware. I get video for 30 seconds and my screen goes red and disconnects. What should I do? Is your Walksnail HD Nano, your video transmitter is overheating? That's my guess. I'm going to guess that you're not flying. You're testing it on the ground, and it's overheating. You need to blow a fan on it, and I bet that won't happen. Or just go fly. That's my guess. If I'm wrong, you tell me, because for a $10 super chat, I'll come back and revisit it. Greasy Official, thank you for a $2 super chat. Nice to know I'm talking to the official Greasy and not like all those copycat Greasies. Greasy says, you the champ, JB. Thank you for the donation, Greasy. Appreciate it. EMA FPV says, sent you an email about the Goggle 3 video loss. Any thoughts on that? The email should be from, all right, we'll go look. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. What do we got? Well, I don't, yeah. Did I don't know, man. Yeah, this was 12 hours ago. Okay. I have no idea, dude. I have no idea how to explain this, honestly. The issue is there's stuttering in the video. This is your DVR. I'm watching your megabits per second, right? Looking good. No shadow detail. Nice dynamic range, 03. You suck! You suck, 03! Look at this shadow detail that doesn't exist. Where's the stuttering? We gonna see the stuttering? Did we already see the stuttering? Can we get a timestamp for where the stuttering is? 3 times complete video loss. Jeez. Where's the video loss? I don't know. 44, 49, 50, all good. Boom. Then it just drops out, huh? Yeah, crazy. I wonder if your air unit's losing power? I didn't see the stuttering, but if it's like just sort of freezing up and then unfreezing, right? Oh, he's lost video? Oh, we lost the air. We lost the... Oh, this is onboard. This is onboard. What does it do onboard? Okay, that's good. What does it do when it freezes up? Well, he hit the ground. Has it fail-safe? No, he's just locked out the controls because he can't see the video. So clearly, the 03 still has power because it's recording the onboard recording. So it's not losing power. Yeah. I don't know, man. That's a weird one, but I don't have a great answer for you. I would just be back to basics. Like, does it only happen on one air unit or does it happen on multiples? I'm going to guess it's something to do with that air unit, but could it be an issue with the Goggles 3 and the 03, like a bug in the new firmware? What do you just say, Blunty?
I was going to say, somebody in chat said there's some kind of bug, critical bug with Goggles 3 and 03, but they did not elaborate, and I could not find a source for that.
Yeah.
I checked, like, Nads Tech hasn't posted about it, you know.
Yeah. Well, and there was a... Yeah. I know
so
there's
anybody
one guy...
knows about that.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't... There was one guy going around reporting a particular thing that they thought was a critical bug, but I didn't necessarily agree. I mean, it was annoying, but it wasn't like a showstopper bug. It had something to do with... It was that you couldn't audience mode between the G3 and the G2. And they were like, people need to know about this. And I'm like, yeah, okay, but like, we're not going to freaking light our hair on fire. It's not that big a deal. So if this is a bug, I mean, it's new firmware, so it's possible there's a bug. But if there is a bug, like, what are we going to do about it? So, Eric, I'm not sure I have a great answer for you. I agree that it didn't lose power. I can tell you that for sure. Because it was still recorded on board. But then what? Okay. Blunty, do you have a question from Raivi? Yeah, here we go. Yes. Let's get this question from Raivi, who's in the chat. Raivi is a 53-plus-year-old goat, and you know I have a soft spot for goats. I installed Phoenix Remote ID module following the steps in your video. GPS Rescue works when I switch on failsafe aux, but the GPS Rescue aux doesn't get active when I try and switch it on. Is that normal?
My question here is, do you mean that you just don't see it light up in the modes tab? Or are you saying you've tried it off the BetaFlight and actually seen it and it doesn't activate?
Like when you're flying. Yeah, because GPS rescue won't light up on the bench, because usually on the bench you don't have enough sats locked because you're indoors, or your GPS isn't powered up. So GPS rescue usually doesn't light up on the bench for that reason. But if you try it while you're flying, it should work. I can't say that I've personally tested it, but if GPS rescue failsafe works, then GPS rescue aux mode should work as well. So... Rave is talking in the chat. It doesn't light up in the modes, but does it work when you're flying?
Yeah, I suspect what you said is correct. And if you actually try it while you're flying, as long as it's, you know, working like all the other modes where the little speck is moving under the bar, you should be good to go.
Yeah, yeah, it won't light up. It won't light up in the modes tab. He says it didn't work while he was flying either. I would see why it would work for failsafe, but not for GPS rescue. You know, that's a weird one to me.
So then I would say we have other questions like, you know, do you have warning in the OSD? Oh, well, if the reactor does drop, also, were you far enough away? Isn't there a BetaFlight thing about you have to be far enough?
When you activate GPS rescue in BetaFlight, it does a bunch of sanity checks, and if any of the sanity checks fails, then it just drops. So, like, as Blunty pointed out, there's a minimum distance. I think it's 50 meters by default. If you're closer than 50 meters to home, it will not GPS rescue. It'll just fall out of the air. So I suspect it actually activated, then it failed a sanity check, and then it dropped out of the air. So, there you go. All right. Continuing on with the questions from the YouTube chat. Now, having finished out the super chats, we'll do another round of super chats before we're done, though. No worries. Let's see here. Pink Whooper, thank you for being a patron. Thanks for joining the Discord server. How do you feel about community's shift from 5-inch to 3.5-inch quads? Do you think we'll see a dedicated 3.5-inch quad page on fpvknowitall.com? So, Pink Whooper, I don't know about that. I feel like the sub 250 page did a pretty good job. It's, you know, needs a little bit of updating, frankly, but you know, I think that sub 250. I don't feel like. I guess the argument would be that 3.5-inch doesn't have to be sub 250, but I think that most people who are going to 3.5-inch are doing it because of the 250-gram limitation, and they want to get around it. So, to me, like the whole, like if I was willing to go over 250 grams, then I mean I've had some fun 3.5-inch quads in the 300-ish gram range. Don't get me wrong, but like I would probably usually rather be flying a 5-inch most of the time. So. But yeah, people are moving to 3.5-inch because they want to be under 250 grams. And they don't want to deal with remote ID, and that just is what it is. 3.5-inch still fly pretty good, you know. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Let's see here. Star Jelly, my keyboard is the Ducky 1. Ducky, D-U-C-K-Y 1 with brown cherry MX Browns. Let's see here. Mihu says, is it electrically okay to power a RunCam Thumb Pro directly from the USB port on the flight controller, assuming I can tuck the plug away safely so there's no risk of damaging the port in a crash? Do you think that the USB port on the flight controller outputs 5 volts? Because normally, that's a very interesting question. I guess I don't see why not. Does it have diodes to protect it? Does it output 5 volts? I know how to test it. I got it. I got this. Here's what I'm going to do. I need a quad with... this will do. It's got a USB micro. Stop putting USB micros on your flight controllers. It's fucking annoying. Fine. We'll use this one. Okay, that's a USB-C. Okay, so quadcopter with props on. So I will definitely chop my face. Here, wait. I have a smoke stopper. There we go. I'll get a smoke stopper. I'll do it safely. Set a good example for the children. Smoke stopper will protect me from the prop spinning. Okay? Here's the deal. And this is a little USB-powered fan. So, it has USB-A. Okay, I can do this. I got this. I have a USB OTG adapter. Okay, we're going to make this work. I'm going to plug the USB into the flight controller. Okay. Got it. And we're going to plug the fan. And if the fan lights up, nope. No power coming out there. No power coming out there. I don't know, like, I don't think the USB outputs power. I think it's diode protected. So no, I don't think you can power it that way.
Some people in chat said it depends on the flight controller design.
Well, of course they did. Okay, so maybe it'll work. If it's outputting power, sure, you could do it. Yeah. Interesting question. Can you use a dual polarity antenna on a moonlight camera? I think, Mr. B, we got that question. You can, but the polarization will not match, and it'll be dual band, so you'll get a reduction in range. Also, the DJI antenna is not dual polarity; it's linear polarized at like a 45-degree orientation, so it's linear polarity. Will you add a 7-inch long range to the drone list on your website? No, probably not. Share USMC. The thing is, long range is almost impossible to do legally in the U.S. So, like, specifically making a website with long range stuff, to me, I feel like it would invite a certain kind of attention that I'm not interested in from the government. It's not something that I'm, like, personally an expert at. So, you know, I would hire somebody to write it. And the other thing is that a lot of the application of 7-inch and larger drones these days is sensitive in certain ways, which you, having USMC in your username, probably understand. So that's the kind of thing where if I was going to advise somebody on how to... Like, if somebody came to me 5 years ago and said, I want to build a 7-inch long-range drone, will you teach me how? I'd be like, yeah, sure, kid, go for it. But if somebody comes to me today and says, I need 7-inch long-range drone carry 2 kilograms for 30 kilometers, I'll be like, sure you do. So, so that's the kind of thing where I wouldn't want to just put up a website being like, here's what you do. I would prefer to know who I was talking to. If you want to learn to fly long range and you want to email me and be like, hey, I'm trying to build a 7-inch drone for long range, I would talk to you about it, but I probably would just be a little more careful about who I was talking to than just putting up a website. Yeah. Okay. Is it trespassing if I fly my drone over a fence but don't step foot over there? No, by definition. So, Brandon Beans, I should say there are some places in the U.S. where they have passed like drone trespassing laws. Not at the federal level, but maybe at the state level. And they've said that if you fly a drone, then you're trespassing. Barring that, no. The traditional definition of trespassing requires your physical presence on the property, and flying a drone does not count. Genjitsu, sorry to hear you lost your job. That sucks. Hopefully you get back on your feet again soon. Is there any work in FPV that is profitable? Any part of it, from being a manufacturer to reseller to a service provider? There are companies out there that will hire you like to build drones maybe warehouse work if you live in one of the few cities where there's a warehouse. Sarasota is one. Get FPV and race day quads are in Sarasota. I don't actually know the city that Pyrodrone is in. I think they might have moved recently. So like if you live in Sarasota, you could probably get a job at Get FPV working in the warehouse, just doing picking, shipping, etc. But as far as profitable, like you quickly get into the world of entrepreneurship, and to be an entrepreneur is usually not profitable unless you work very hard for a long time at great expense to yourself, and then eventually maybe you make it, maybe you don't. It's not a sure thing for sure. There is profitable work out there, but most of it is very difficult, and you're not just going to wake up one morning and decide, I'm going to make drones today, right? So if you're not already positioned to be doing that, and you're looking for a way to pay the rent this month, that's not how to do it, in my opinion. Okay. 100RC asks, for somebody new to FPV drones using a simulator to learn how to fly, what do you recommend for me to practice doing that helps me understand it? I'm using liftoff with the DJI controller. So, good news, Juan. I have a playlist. It's the Learn to Fly an FPV Drone Today for Total Beginners playlist.
Way back in 2000.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, 191K views. That's amazing. This playlist, you can just search just like I did, Learn to Fly a Drone. Joshua Bardwell, Learn to Fly a Drone. And it's a whole playlist.
Way back in...
Shush, Joshua. Containing currently about 20 lessons. I'll probably record more eventually. I just haven't gotten around to it because I sort of felt like I hit a good number and then was like, okay, I'll do something else for a little while. But it's a good way to get started and doesn't cost anything. And you can just go check it out right now and start working through the exercises. So that's what I would suggest. William Morrow says, I've been looking into building or buying a drone that can lift a half pound or more, and has GPS that can fly for about 20 to 30 minutes. Any suggestions on what I should buy or build? See, this is the kind of question, USMC, whatever your name was, that 5 years ago I might not have raised my hackles, but now I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, probably this guy's just a hobbyist. He's not up to no good. But potentially he's up to no good, right? Potentially he's dropping packages in a prison yard or worse. So I would say that that's the kind of thing that you could theoretically buy it off the shelf, right? But like, here's the thing. When somebody gives a payload capacity, I immediately side-eye them. And I'm like, why do you need to lift a half a pound specifically? Because, like, I don't know, maybe that's a camera you want to carry. Okay, checks out. Why didn't you say I need a drone that can lift the Sony Z-Cam? I don't know. Just raises an eyebrow. Probably nothing. That drone, the 20 to 30 minute flight time is going to be challenging on an off-the-shelf drone. I would say something like a 10-inch is roughly where you're going to be. I'll tell you that much. A 7-inch, I don't know about a half. I assume you mean a half pound. How much is that in grams? It's only 226 grams. That's not that much weight. That's like nothing for a 7-inch. A 7-inch could get you 20 minutes, maybe close to 30 minutes. A 10-inch would do it for sure. And beyond that, I'm going to leave you to figure it out. Let's see here. Can you please take a look at the new Fat Shark HDO Plus goggles? Yeah, I did. So I did on a previous live stream, no disrespect to you or your question, but I'm so unimpressed with the HDO Plus goggles. They're just the same Fat Shark goggle Fat Shark has been releasing for 5 years or more with a 1920 by 1080 screen in it this time. And it's like, Fat Shark, get off your ass, you know? Get off your ass and make a new goggle, right? Fat Shark is just like, you know, the Rolling Stones going around playing I Can't Get No Satisfaction until they're 78 years old. And the difference is that I would go see the Rolling Stones at 78 years old play I Can't Get No Satisfaction because they still rock. And that's an amazing song, and it has been for its whole career. But the Fat Shark goggle, you can't keep recycling that thing for umpteen years and expect everybody to be like, yeah, Keith Richards, keep playing, dude. Okay? Fat Shark. Get off your ass. Oh, we have a new goggle. Do ya? Do ya? Anyway, I ranted about this on a previous live stream. Blunty, I assume it's going up on the Livestream Clips channel. For those who don't know, yeah. Is it up yet?
No.
No.
I have a suggestion for a different way to take this, though.
Okay. Well, I was going to take it into a plug for the Livestream Clips channel. Do you want to do yours first?
Well, no, you do that. And then...
Okay. Okay. So, in case you don't know, Joshua Bardwell Livestream Clips is my Livestream Clips channel. Blunty actually does all the work clipping out the best parts of live streams, and if you like miss live streams, you want highlights, go subscribe to the Joshua Bardwell Livestream Clips channel. It's also great because you can just search and you can be like, has Bardwell ever talked about the Pavo Pico on a live stream? Oh, and sure has. How about that? Isn't that interesting? Anyway, go ahead, Blunty. What do you got?
What could Fat Shark do that would be interesting? Like, what would we want from? I mean, what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I understand where you're coming from, but also
I'll tell you, 100%. Here's why I know that they're lazy. Here's why I know that they're lazy. They haven't updated the DVR board. Okay, their DVR is a shitty 12 megabits per second MJPEG compression DVR. It's the same firmware. It's got a shitty interface that's difficult to use. It's cumbersome and clunky to use. It doesn't have like a really good menu structure. It's like, and it has terrible image quality, so that the DVR you record looks significantly worse than the image you see in the goggles. Every other goggle has like a good quality H.264, MPEG recording, MOV, whatever. It's good quality video, reasonable bit rate, and it looks pretty good. And what happened is that years ago, Immersion RC designed that DVR board for them, and then Fat Shark was just like, oh, okay, got that problem solved, and they have never attempted to revisit it. And so that's like one thing. It's a small quality of life thing, but it is pure laziness. Or maybe they're just know they wouldn't make their money back. I don't know. Like, I'm not asking them to, but like, it just shows that they don't care because they haven't improved it. That's my opinion. Oh, well, I've stunned him into silence. Blunty, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I'm working on other stuff. I was letting you go off.
Yeah, no, I'm done. What is your opinion? What's your response to that?
I got to be honest, I wasn't listening. I was letting you do your thing.
But you asked me a question.
Right, for the stream, like for the content.
Oh, I thought you were about to argue with me. I thought you were about to argue with me and be like, well, here's what you thought you were going to say. Well, actually, this doesn't matter that they haven't updated them. Okay, sorry. Okay. I was so looking forward to arguing with you. Damn, I'm a little let down. So they haven't updated the shell, the injection molded shell. And like, well, why would they update the shell? I don't know. But like, you just still churning out the same thing that you were making years ago. You just have a slightly different screen in it. Look at the Sky Zone goggles. The interface on the Sky Zone goggles is just a pleasure to use. It has an actual menu structure. The options and settings are easily available. There's a configurable low voltage threshold. They don't have, the Fat Shark goggle doesn't have a configurable low voltage threshold. The low voltage threshold is hard coded into a microcontroller. Because I know this because I once asked Tony Cake from Immersion RC, can I change this? And he was like, yeah, if you get a programmer for this PIC microcontroller and then solder to the programming pads on the board, you could reprogram it with a custom firmware that I could theoretically create for you and change the low voltage threshold so it doesn't start beeping when your 2S battery is at 3.6 volts or 3 points ridiculously high and not dead yet. And I was like, well, damn, why isn't there just a menu where I can change the low voltage threshold? In 5+ years, no one's thought, I think I'll make a menu where people can configure the goggle options. Skyzone did. Orca did. Fat Shark's just like, nah, we're good. So, like, I'm just not impressed with the HDO Plus because it's the same Fat Shark goggle they've been selling for 7 years with a slightly different screen. Good for you. Okay. Not impressed. Igor Goga wants some ideas on DJI Integra poor range. That's going to be a tough one, Igor. Did we do this same question on the last live stream? I feel like we did. Igor, were you doing a deja vu here? The number one thing to do is to make sure that it is going out of low power mode when you arm. If the O3 stays in low power mode when you arm, that's why you're getting terrible range. And the issue is that it needs to be hooked up to a flight controller so that it knows when you arm and goes out of low power mode. Jose Aladino Ospino Lopez says, do you know if some professional drone racers use Throttle Expo? And I don't think they do. I don't know for sure. Probably somebody does. The main people who use Throttle Expo are Cinewhoop pilots who have, they need very precise throttle control so their altitude is as steady as possible. The problem with Throttle Expo is that as soon as the weight of your drone changes, your Throttle Expo isn't correct anymore. Does Johnny 5, do you know anybody who uses, thank you Skydozer for the suggestion. Johnny 5, you know any racers who use Throttle Expo? None that'll admit to it. Mark Bachman says, my Mobula 6 quit responding to my Radiomaster Boxer. Both BetaFlight and the radio show RSSI, but it will not arm, and BetaFlight shows no response in the receiver or modes to sticks or switches. Mark, go to your ExpressLRS Lua script and see if there is an error message in the title bar of the Lua script like model match. My guess is that it is bound, but your model match is screwing you up, and you would fix that by going to the model match option in the menu and turning it off. Or you could go into the web UI on the receiver and turn model match off. That's my guess as to why that's not working for you. My Mobula 6 VTX cuts out if I punch it after about a minute of flight, asks Shady. I presume it's due to voltage sag. I still have full control, just the video drops. Is there any fix for it? Yeah, get a better battery. Get a good quality battery. The Weebleed FPV square cell batteries are the best. Weebleed isn't the only one who makes square cell batteries. I just like Weebleed and like to support them. Use a BT 2.0 connector instead of a PH 2.0 connector also. That's going to help fix those dropouts. Drums or flats? Asks ME. What kind of chicken wings do you like? I never pay more for all drums or all flats. I got to tell you, I think that like drums are like easier to eat because you just eat off the bone, right? Whereas flats, you have to kind of like, you have two bones you have to work for. I kind of like the experience of eating a flat better. I'm not sure why. Like a flat has a little bit nicer skin to meat ratio, so it's got the crispy skin but also the meat, and there's something about just like stripping the flat that's really satisfying. But I mean, I'll tear up some drums as well. So Trevor Goggle I would be surprised if the Mob 7 comes with a BT connector. Let's look. I mean, why can't we just look on the website? Right? That's what I'm going to do. Mobula 7. Like, is it not in the pictures, dude? Is it not in the pictures? Oh my god, is it not in the pictures?
It's right there in the prop. It's just clear.
Where do you see it?
In that picture. Top right prop.
I mean, I can't tell what it is. I think it's a BT. Yeah, I think it's a BT 2.0, but can't really tell what it is, can you? Oh, there it is. That's a PH 2.0. PH 2.0. Same. Shame. It's not ideal. But they don't want to pay for they don't want to pay for the BT. They don't want to pay Beta FPV for the BT plug. Mark Optics asks, can you make build videos for O3 racing? No, not really. No offense, Mark. Racing frames are not made for the size of the O3. Like, I think there's like the iFlight Mach R5 comes with the O3 and it can be technically a racing drone, but like race organizers generally don't like dealing with O3 and DJI because of the timing systems. I know it can be done, and if you have a drone with an O3 and you feel like going to a race, don't be discouraged. You 100% should go, right? If you have a drone with an O3 and you want to race, 100% you should go to a race. Like don't go to nationals. But like, go out to your local race, show up, meet the people, and be like, hey, can I get in a heat? They'll make room for you. They'll make it work, right? But at the end of the day, O3 is not ideal for racing. The variable latency, the variable output power, the frequencies being all weird, mess with the timing system. The minute you decide, okay, I like this racing thing, I'm going to do racing, you should build an analog or an HD Zero Quad, 100%. So I don't know why I would make content about O3 for racing when that's not what you should be doing if you're making a racing drone. The only reason you should be flying an O3 at a race is you showed up at the race and an O3 is what you happen to own because it's your first race or your second race or your fifth race. But the minute you sit down to build a racing drone, it shouldn't have an O3 in it. That's my opinion. What's the best drone that is efficient in cost and performs very nicely? It is the iFlight Nazgul XL5 Eco. Very simple. $219. Put a receiver in it. $235. Oh my God. This was $215 when I bought it with an iFlight receiver. They've jacked the price up since I released the video. I'm not saying my video is why they jacked the price up. I'm just saying chronologically that's the order in which things happened. Still a hell of a deal. $235. Very good drone at the price, and in my opinion, one of the leaders right now in terms of performance for value. Potential DJI ban effect on development of FPV drone parts in the U.S. What's needed to compete? Well, Scott, what's needed to compete is a ban on importing parts because, as far as I can tell, we're not going to compete with China on labor costs, right? America isn't going to compete with China on labor costs. They're not going to compete with China on environmental protection, on worker protection, on any of the ways that other countries cut corners in order to lower costs. And then American companies go to those countries so that they can increase profits. And, it's the beautiful, beautiful way that the world works. So in order to compete, we're going to need to be able to charge more money and we're going to need tariffs or some other kind of protection. And I want to be really clear that I'm not espousing those things. I'm not saying that I would prefer that those things happen. I'm just saying that if your end goal is a viable U.S. manufacturing market for drone parts, then there's no way that American companies are going to be able to compete with China on price. and the American consumer is very concerned about price. So what are you going to do? Well, you're either going to see companies that are selling American-made stuff, targeting customers who have other reasons for avoiding China and don't care about price. In other words, the government, right? The government wants to avoid stuff from China because they have concerns about relying on China in terms of if there is a conflict or something, right? There's all these reasons. Or maybe it's all just bullshit and it's just xenophobic hysteria. I don't know, right? This is not my area of specialty. But it's a fact that right now, federal agencies are trying to get U.S.-made drone parts, right? We see Rotor Riot with their Brave flight controller, right, targeting that. And I'm sure they're not alone. Okay, so, well, that doesn't mean a damn thing to the hobbyist, right? So if someday the government says you can't import drone motors, can't import flight controllers, can't import ESCs from China, then maybe American manufacturing will have a chance. But if that means that drones cost another 2x multiplier or more over what they do today, I mean, would you pay $250 for a flight controller and ESC stack? Or would you just be like, screw it, this hobby's dead to me? So, I don't know. What's needed to compete? I do think that the potential DJI ban will continue to drive interest in U.S.-based manufacturing. I think that that's a trend that's going to continue. I don't know how that's going to play out for hobbyists, but for commercial and industrial users and government users, obviously, I think that that is a trend that's going to definitely continue. Any G2 antennas you recommend? I use the stock antennas. The aftermarket antennas, I would get the True RC makes a set of aftermarket antennas for the G2, and that's what I would get. Would you feel comfortable recommending analog to a brand new pilot, even if they can afford digital? I should probably put those True RC antennas up on screen. I mean, it's these. True RC X Air 5.8 Mark II for goggles 2. They're pretty solid. And they don't fall off as easily as some of the other ones do. If you can afford digital, unless you were heavy into racing, I would probably not steer you toward analog. The main reason beginners choose analog, in my opinion, is cost. And if cost is not an option, then I think you're going to get a much better experience for most people out of something like DJI or Walksnail. And frankly, the sales of these products also suggest that that's the case. So, how does adding tariff? Blunty, are you arguing with somebody about tariffs? Jesus Christ.
I'm trying to figure out what they actually mean.
Okay. What did he say?
He said the CHIPS Act will bring manufacturing back to the U.S. and lower pricing due to tariffs added to costs coming in from China. But I just don't understand why tariffs on things coming in from China would somehow lower prices in the U.S.
So the tariffs increase the price to the consumer for the foreign goods, which then raises the price ceiling the customer will accept, which then makes domestic manufacturing more viable, because the whole point of tariffs is that we're going to force the customer to pay more so that domestic manufacturing is now viable at the higher price point. The entire the premise of tariffs is that you can't bring the price point down, right?
Yeah, I mean, the only way you could make this conclusion is that you would have to say that you're guaranteeing that because these tariffs would keep increasing and then they can't get anything into the U.S., then companies would be able to be bigger because they could sell to more people and then they could lower prices. But that's some kind of like crazy, to me, roundabout thing. And you're trying to guess that that's going to be the case. And there's going to be enough competition over time. And like, that's a lot of assumptions, right?
That's a lot.
What I'll say is your statement is correct if you say, and U.S. will be lower prices than China after tariffs, because that's the point of them, right? That's the goal.
Yeah. If you've got a product that costs $50 from China and it costs U.S. manufacturers $100 to sell that product, and so no one's buying it from U.S. So then you add a tariff, and now the Chinese product costs $100, $150, $120. Now the U.S. product is $100 and it's cheaper than the Chinese one. Why would, at that point, number one, at that point the U.S. manufacturer, like, they can't lower their price, or they would have been. Okay, well, maybe you make the argument, well, now the U.S. customer is buying a shitload of these U.S. products, so their volume is up, so now they can lower their price. Why would they? The alternative is $120 because of the tariff, or $150. Why wouldn't they just keep charging $100 and be like, thank you, federal government, for removing our competition? And Blunty,
Oh, sorry. Let's just be 100% clear. He says manufacturing internal of the U.S. makes it cheaper by removing the tariffs, but it doesn't make it cheaper than now. It makes it cheaper than the new tariff price. That's what we're saying.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it makes it, what you're not doing, you're not making the U.S. manufacturing cheaper, you're making the foreign importing more expensive, so that the foreign importing costs more than the U.S. manufacturing. At no point does a tariff reduce the cost of U.S. manufacturing, unless theoretically you get more economies of scale because of increased volume, maybe. But again, I go back to, why wouldn't they just pocket that money, since they're protected by the tariff from competition from the external source?
Right. The only way that happens is you have internal competition across multiple companies that are trying to vie for this, right?
And by the way, what often really happens is that $50 Chinese part that costs Americans $100 to make costs the Chinese $3 to make. So you slap the tariff on, and now the Chinese part is $120 or whatever, except the Chinese just, I've gotten the numbers wrong. I've screwed up the numbers. But what you actually see happen is the tariff gets slapped on and the Chinese price stays the same, and the Chinese company just accepts a lower profit margin, and they're still making plenty of money because the damn thing cost them peanuts to make in the first place. And so now the American company still isn't competitive. All you've done is squeeze the Chinese company slightly. So
I'll just say I have now completely lost the plot, because he says, don't forget you export back to China also. Nobody's exporting flight controllers to China. What are we talking about?
Even if you are, how does the tariff factor into that?
I don't understand.
It's an import tariff. Yeah. Okay, this conversation is over. Let's get some super chats out of the way before we finish up the stream at 10 o'clock. Dustin Pratt, thank you for a $5 super chat. I tried cooling and tried just arming and flying, and it still does it. It cuts out after 30 seconds, as VTX does. If I go into the goggles and fresh channel, it comes back, but it goes back out in 30. Man, I don't know, man. You got a screwed up video transmitter, as far as I can tell. Yeah, you try another video transmitter? You got it. This is not like a known issue that I can just be like, oh yeah, well, you just pat your head and spin around 3 times and it's fixed. Like, overheating was my best guess. If it's not overheating, then you got, I don't know, it's screwed up in some way. Update the firmware. Update the firmware on everything. Why not?
I have one thing just to ask.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. Refresh channel comes back. So yeah, the VTX isn't doing anything, and somehow the goggles is losing it. Okay. I don't know.
Theodore Cornwall, thank you for a $10 super chat. What's the cheapest analog goggle and the best antenna setup I can buy right now? Sub 200 for goggles, unlimited for antennas. Sub 200, probably Sky Zone Cobra goggles. I think they're under $200. That's a pretty decent goggle. It's in the $200 to $250 range, and it's worth that money. It's got a good module in it. As far as antennas go, I mean, again, TrueRC makes really good antennas. Luminaire Axi are available, domestically. They're very good. As far as best antenna, I mean, you buy a good quality antenna. I would probably recommend something like the TrueRC X Air antenna for a directional antenna. Yeah. By the way, shouldn't miss the opportunity to plug my website. If you're looking for product recommendations, go to fpvknowitall.com, fpvknowitall.com. And you can find all my product recommendations there, including analog FPV systems. Boom. Analog goggles. Boom. What do I recommend? SkyZone Cobra X, best box goggle. There you go. That's the exact one I just recommended to you. Let's see if it's actually in stock anywhere. Probably not. It's out of stock because everything's freaking out of stock everywhere. And then people come to me and they say, when is your website going to be updated? Everything's out of stock. And I say, it's not my website. Everything's just out of stock everywhere. Oh my God. Do they actually have it in stock at Newbie Drone? Holy crap. There you go. That's the goggle for you, buddy. And it's available at Newbie Drone. It's available on Amazon. Only 5 left in stock. Order soon. That's a little pricey, I think, for that. $250 is just barely worth it. Okay. What analog goggle will you buy today if digital was banned? Thank you for $10, ED Jakes. My current daily driver analog goggle is the SkyZone Sky 04X Pro. I like it pretty well. Crispy Drip. Does an upside-down right-hand polarized antenna become a left-hand polarized? No. That's not how it works, Crispy Drip. Crispy Drip, imagine a spiral coming at you, a screw thread. If I turn it upside down, does the screw thread change directions? No. I can twist that screw any direction and it's still spiraling to the left. So, oops, wrong question up on stream. Comic Sniper says, do the HC0 goggle backpack work with a Whoop VTX? Like an SPI-based VTX? No. That's interesting. Comic Sniper, I can tell you that some of the Whoop flight controllers with the built-in Express LRS and so forth do support the backpack function. I don't know if I can say for sure that all of them do. Well, Captain Bry is still in the chat. Captain Bry, would we assume that a flight controller with a built-in Express LRS and a built-in like Open VTX, something like the Happy Model Mobula flight controller, would we assume that the backpack function would also work?
Mike Bergman says it does work.
Mike Bergman says it works? Oh. Okay. I don't know if you would assume that it's like... What if I had... No, it's all going to work because it goes back through the flight controller, doesn't it? Because it's via smart audio to the VTX. So it would even work with an external VTX. Yeah. The Express LRS receiver communicates the VTX information to the flight controller, and the flight controller sends it to the VTX. So yes, no, the answer is it will work, yes. It will work regardless. Okay. That's our super chats. We got about 15 minutes left in the stream. Level 1 Drone says, I sold my Cobra X for a Fat Shark Dominator V2. No one warned me the screen was so small. Why? You have one big screen right in front of your face. Think about it. You're just pressing your face up against the screen. On the Dominators, it's micro displays with lenses in front of them. Okay? The screen on the Dominators is smaller, but you can see the whole screen, right? You can see the whole screen, right? If it was any bigger, you wouldn't be able to see the whole screen at the same time. So the idea is that those micro display goggles are designed to have a field of view that's just big enough that you can see the whole screen and no bigger. So you're not getting this immersive sort of face pressed up against the glass experience, but you can actually see what is coming at you, which I think a lot of people would argue is preferable. Well, maybe not you. Maybe you prefer the other way around.
My suggestion would be this is maybe more a reaction to the FOV as opposed to the screen size. You're just assuming the screen size is the problem because your old goggles were big. These are small, and now you can't see.
Well, it's a smaller FOV. I assume that's what he's referring to.
The Dom V2 is a 32, so that's very small compared to
wait.
These are the old Dom V2s.
Oh, he doesn't mean the Dom. Oh no. I'm sorry. Thank you, Blunty. No, I didn't catch that. The Dom V2. Oh yeah, no. Those have a tiny screen.
Yeah.
But
those
that's
the first
not
goggles I ever put on that weren't DJI goggles, and I was like, "What are you people looking at?" And I was
no. Those are terrible. I would have kept the. I mean, too late now, but I would have kept the Cobra X. The Dom V2, like back in the day, maybe it was like the only thing you could get. Isn't it also a 320 by 240 screen? Is it a 640 by 480?
It is 640 by 480.
Okay, my bad. Was it? Yeah, no. The Dominator V2 has a tiny screen. They're not all like that. You bought a goggle with a really teeny tiny field of view. That was your mistake. Let's see here. Can I put my drone batteries all in a bag to go fly, or should I protect the battery leads in some way? No. The XT60 connector itself is enough protection, unless you're walking around with like an open pair of tweezers or something that might stick in there and short circuit the battery. So don't put a bunch of other shit in there with the batteries, but the XT60 isn't going to short circuit all by itself. Devin Laporte says, my DJI O3 camera is real dark in mild, cloudy weather. What can I do to make the camera view brighter? I mean, Devin, check your camera settings to make sure the ISO is maxed out. I think by default, BetaFlight, the O3 doesn't go to the maximum possible ISO in order to protect the image quality. And if you swipe up on the touchpad, or if you have the G2, or if you press up on the joystick, if you have the other goggles, it'll bring up the camera settings menu. You can change the ISO, the exposure, and so forth, and you may be able to get a little more image detail out of them. But keep in mind that the O3 just does not have great low light sensitivity, it really gets muddy in low light and lacks shadow detail. And there's only so much you can do to fix that. There's a little bit you can do, but there's only so much you can do. Let's see here. David Love to Fly. In my opinion, 2807 1300 kV on 8-inch props. So like with an 8S battery. 8S, 5-inch props, 1500 kV is just about perfect. So you've gone to an 8-inch prop, but you've only gone down 200 kV. Maybe it's going to be ball-rippingly amazing, but I don't think it's going to give long flight time, and I think it's going to be working the battery pretty hard. I don't think it'll burn the motors, because those are pretty beefy motors, but I would definitely, I would fly it carefully and feel out the throttle and see if the motors are hot. I wouldn't just full send the very first one. Connor Dunn says, should I get the goggles 2 or 3? I'm turning this into a business and want a more future-proof system. Well, the goggles 3 are more future-proof because they are newer. So I guess the 3. You probably got at least a good 4 years out of the 3 based on what we've seen from the V2 and the G2. The G2 will probably continue to be usable for a good while, but if future-proofness is your concern, the newest system is going to be the one that they support the longest into the future. Edie Jakes asks, is the Skyo 4X Pro much better than a BDI Digidaptor V2 with the FPV goggles 2? Yes, it's much better. The latency is a little lower. The latency on the BDI Digidaptor, the latency on the goggles, the V2 goggles AV input is a little higher, maybe like 1 frame, 16 milliseconds. And just the whole experience of using the V2 goggles with an analog input when that's not primarily what they were designed to do is just clunkier. The Sky Zone is significantly better. Now, is it $500 better? I think that's debatable. A lot of people are very happy with the BDI Digidaptor. But keep in mind that the BDI Digidaptor is, well, it used to be $80. I bet it's more now. I haven't checked recently. So the BDI Digidaptor is going to run you in the realm of maybe $100, and your module is going to run you another $100, $150 in that range, maybe a little less. So let's say you've got $200 in the BDI Digidaptor and the module. Now it's only going to cost you $300 more to get the SkyZone Skyo 4X Pro, which is still a fair amount of money, but you have to sort of consider both ends of the value proposition. We got a question here from Robocopter. Thank you for a $5 super chat, Robocopter. I have the Darwin FPV Cement ESC with a BAT pad and the Hobbling F7 flight controller. Does BAT connect it to VBAT on the F7? Yes, it does. BAT is VBAT. It's just two names for the same thing. Okay. Okay, that's a cute question. I'll bite. Claymore says, hypothetically, if you had $1 million to bet on one of the following 7-inch spec orgs to succeed, Major League Drone Racing, Street League, or MultiGP Pro Spec, which one do you choose and why? Well, it's not Major League Drone Racing, that's for sure. Blunty, I think you'd agree. Excuse me. Remember the drama we had with the news and Major League Drone Racing accused of ripping off pilots? And then we interviewed the CEO, and he was like, seemed well-intentioned, let's just put it that way, but didn't seem like he really... I wouldn't bet on Major League Drone Racing, I guess is what I'm going to say. Hey, maybe I'm wrong. He seemed like he had a lot of money. He's willing to throw money at a problem. It'll get places. I mean, in some ways, Major League Drone Racing already is succeeding.
I'd say it seemed like he didn't have a lot of money because he couldn't even pay the pilots. That was what our story was about.
Well, he wouldn't pay the pilots. I don't know if he couldn't. He seemed like a rich dude. I mean, here's the thing. Major League Drone Racing is running races right now. Right? They're freaking getting, boxing world champion belts made for their pilots. How much do you think those belts cost? Not cheap. In terms of marketing, Major League Drone Racing is... Look, they got a freaking schedule. They're freaking running races. So, define succeed. Are they profitable? I'd be shocked. Who knows? But there you go. By this standard, MLDR is already more successful than Street League and Pro Spec. Now, I don't know if this is the standard you should apply.
Why? I don't understand that.
They're running races. They have a schedule. They have venues
for years.
Yeah, but they have a website. Look at this website.
Street League does too.
Did you not see the belts? Look at the belts. Does Street League have these belts?
I don't know if you're doing a bit or not, but I'm assuming.
I'm just saying, there's
be a bit too, right?
There's a polish here. My point is that there's a polish here, and there is a willingness to invest. That I think that counts for something. But I don't think it's the one I would bet on. You have to define succeed, right? What's the definition of succeed? Is it let's define succeed as to have racers participating. Well, by that standard, MLDR has already lost. Because MLDR's whole thing is we're going to have sports teams and we're going to have paid pilots. And that's not what I mean, good for you. Go over in your corner and do that and hopefully, drum up some interest in FPV. But that's not what the sort of future of FPV needs to be for the average person. So MLDR is out. So then you've got Street League and you've got Pro Spec. And this is a tough one because Blunty, as Blunty pointed out, Street League has been running races for years and has been successful, has drummed up a lot of interest. And then there was a little bit of a disagreement between Street League and MultiGP, which I won't go into because there's two sides to every story and I'm not interested. It's not even that I'm not interested in taking a side. I don't even feel like I'm in a position to take a side. I've heard some things about the drama and I can definitely see how I could be on either side of it based on what I've heard. How both parties, I think, did what they thought they were entitled to do and was right to do. And maybe both parties, there were things that could have been done differently to make it come out a different way. But here we are. They had a falling out. I don't think either of them is like the bad guy in this story, I would say. But now we have two 7-inch specs, Pro Spec and Street League. And on the one hand, Street League has all this momentum behind it. On the other hand, I mean, being affiliated with MultiGP is kind of a big deal. Who would I bet on? MultiGP has had spec leagues before. MultiGP had a spec league, and it wasn't successful, and it didn't keep going. Now MultiGP is affiliated with Freedom Spec and Tiny Trainer, but that's all 533's work. Go ahead, Blunty.
I think you definitely, like, we got to go back to the first thing you said, which is, like, how do you define success? Because DRL went for years, they were on MSNBC and ESPN. Just because they're not around, did that not succeed? I think we got to find out, like, are you asking what's going to last the longest? Are you asking what's going to have the most pilots? Are you asking what's going to draw the most crowds? Are you asking, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of ways to define success. Yeah,
exactly. So DRL was not really a pilots league, but it drew a lot of crowds, it got a lot of attention, and ultimately DRL as a company, you know, I mean, I think it made money. It sold, and I don't know, maybe it's still making money. I don't know what happened to it. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
Virtual Only was bought by a company that does AI stuff, I think.
Yeah, and crypto. I don't think I would define, you know, spectatorship. I don't think drone racing is about spectatorship. I think that's a good tool for raising the profile of drone racing, but I don't think it's fundamentally what I would define as successful. You know, still running races, you know, years from now, which one's going to be doing it? I think if I had to bet on which one will still be running races the longest, I think that probably it would be MultiGP. Not because I think that Street League is not like committed, but like MultiGP as an organization has been around for a long time. And like, I wonder if Street League suffers a little bit from if like two people both, one of them has a baby and doesn't race anymore, and one of them gets hit by a bus, God forbid, then, oh, whoops, now the momentum is gone. I've seen projects like that in the past where it was like a few very passionate people who were driving it, and then when those people either lost the passion or became unavailable, suddenly no one was driving it. It faltered. And I know that MultiGP definitely, like Chris Thomas has been running MultiGP for a long time, is a very passionate person, but it feels like MultiGP is more of an established organization in that it's likely. But the thing is MultiGP, you know, 3 years from now going to go, yeah, okay, the 7-inch spec rig is. The thing is that the Street League guys are just legitimately passionate about 7-inch drone racing. They are never going to be like, this isn't working for us. We're just going to go do something. We're going to do 5-inch racing instead. Whereas MultiGP, you know, their heart and soul is 5-inch racing, and 7-inch is on some level maybe a little bit of we'll try this out. So that's a tough one. That's a very tough one. I don't know. I don't know. I'm on the fence again. I just keep the $1 million. Right? I wish that they could resolve their difference. It sucks that there are two competing 7-inch spec leagues because, like, you can't race the same drone in both, I don't think. So basically pilots have to pick, and that's never good. It would be so much better for the hobby if they could figure out how to resolve their differences and at least come up with a spec that was cross-compatible between the two leagues so that the same pilots could race in both. I know what we need, a third league. That's it. That'll solve this. Okay. A couple more super chats before we wrap up. Edie Jakes, thank you for a $10 super chat. And Tyler Volker, thank you for $5. I'm on Express LRS, 2 different quads, 3 separate times. I randomly fell from the sky. Could my Zorro be going bad? I mean, it's possible. I would bet more on interference, maybe, than your Zorro, but who knows? You could have a broke. What was your LQ doing at the time? I guess is my question. Yeah. I would want to know if your LQ was like good and then suddenly you fail-saved, or if your LQ was kind of all over the place. If your LQ is all over the place, it could be interference. If your LQ is good and then suddenly it fail-saves, well, it could still be interference, but it could be a hardware problem too. It's hard to say. You could do the table test. What you're going to do is you're going to go, so it's Express LRS before first flight is what you search for. Before first flight. And you go down and they've got the table test here, the bench test they call it. And basically it's used to measure the RSSI coming off your drone and tell you if your antenna's messed up or if your receiver's messed up. That would be a good thing to do. And it's, whenever you're getting weird fail-safes, it's always a good thing to try out. Okay. That is going to wrap us up, guys, for the evening. We'll see you back here next week, Sunday at 1 and Monday at 8, and also the news Tuesday at 6. But for now, we are out of here. Thank you to everybody who asked questions. And and go check out Ciati FPV, who is streaming right now, posting the link in the chat. He's trying to troubleshoot a twitching motor. Ooh. Wonder how that's going to go. Okay, Mupshot, you're a patron, so I'll take one more question from you. How often should you replace your antenna? Is there a point where wear and tear degrades your performance? Yeah, the antenna doesn't wear out, but the SMA connector does eventually. What is the point where it's too much, though? I'm not even sure how you would tell. Measure the RSSI coming off the antenna, I guess? I don't know. But yeah, eventually the SMA does wear out. Okay, guys. That's going to do it. We will see you in the next one. Bye, everybody. Thank you, Blunty.
Bye.